You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1124 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Friday, August 1st, 2025. It is the first day of a new month. It is the day after we on Thursday evening had reports that Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin has requested to be traded. Amazing that this situation has gotten to this point. Unfortunate that this situation has gotten to this point. Terry McLaurin has requested to be traded. The contract extension negotiations between him and the team seemingly are going nowhere. And so this situation now has gotten even uglier. Now, just because he wants to be traded doesn't mean that he will be traded. I want Sidney Sweeney to return my DMs, but that ain't happening. And I would be surprised if Terry McLaurin is traded. And the reporting has been that the team is highly unlikely to trade him. But you can't dismiss anything at this point. This situation already has gotten a lot uglier than we all ever anticipated. Hello and welcome to this Friday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Next segment, intel on the stalled contract extension negotiations between Terry McLaurin and the Commanders. We'll chat with Tony Pauline, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst for Sportskeeda. Tony on July 29th came out with a report on what league insiders are saying about how this McLaurin situation will play out. Spoiler alert, they do not see this going as well for McLaurin as he would like. Tony will explain what he's hearing and get into much more about the McLaurin situation. As I have said and will continue to say, the leverage is on the side of the team. McLaurin can hold out, he can hold in, he can request a trade, he can do whatever he wants. That doesn't change the reality that the leverage is on the side of the team. So we'll talk with Tony Pauline next segment. The following segment, discussion of 2025 Commanders training camp, as we on Thursday morning had the second padded practice of camp. We'll address the continued rise of running back Jacory Croskey-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, the growth of quarterback Jayden Daniels as a leader, the second-year players who are standing out to head coach Dan Quinn, telling comments from Quinn on cornerback Marshon Lattimore, the rising relationship between left tackle Laremy Tunsil and offensive lineman Josh Conerly Jr., the chemistry that Jayden Daniels already has with receiver Deebo Samuel Sr., and more. And also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles off what each team did and did not do on Thursday, what was 2025 MLB Trade Deadline Day. The deadline was on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Nats did not trade their ace, MacKenzie Gore, but they did make a lot of trades. The O's made even more trades. Each team was an aggressive seller, and I like what what each team did. I'll explain why. But Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo and Orioles executive vice president and general manager Mike Elias. Mike and Mike. Hey, that should be a radio show. They did good work on Thursday. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on the Commanders and Terry McLaurin still not having agreed on a contract extension. Email from Stanley Evans. Right, Stanley? What's up, Al? Hope everything is going extremely well and always appreciate what you do. I've always loved Terry McLaurin, homegrown talent with genuine love for this city, this fan base, and everything we stand for. But I'll be honest, I'm not sure what it's going to take for him to suit up for us this season. Yes, you can chase more money somewhere else and end up with a franchise that doesn't have the same bond you've built here, especially not with someone like Jayden. Or you can take a fair offer, stay where you're already a legend, and build something truly special with a legit QB1. I'll never knock a man for wanting to get what he's worth, but at a certain point, this whole situation is starting to come off a little diva-ish. We all want Terry back. We all want to see him and Jayden light it up. If Terry doesn't play this year, it'll feel like a huge opportunity missed. For the first time in forever, we've got a real number 2 receiver, a promising offense, and a fresh culture shift. The silver lining to all of this is Josh Harris is staying out of the way, and Adam Peters is handling this, just like the smart fans hoped. Have a great day, Al. Thank you for the email, Stanley. I would be stunned if Terry McLaurin sat out the 2025 regular season. First of all, this coming season will be his age 30 season, so him sitting out a year and then coming back for his age 31 season would only further the age concern. But second of all, if McLaurin sat out the upcoming regular season, his contract would toll. In other words, he would not get credit for the season. He would not get what is called an accrued season, and he still would be under contract to the Commanders for the 2026 season. McLaurin is under contract for the 2025 season. This and the franchise tag are 2 big reasons for why the Commanders have the leverage in this situation. I don't think that aspect of this situation is being appreciated enough. The team has the leverage in this situation. But to that point, email from Connor Davis. Writes Connor, "Hi, Al. This Terry talk is just silly at this point. If I'm the team, why would I even entertain an extension at $30+ million a year? He's under contract this year, and we could franchise tag him next year if he stays healthy and performs well. That would be 2 more seasons with less money against the cap. If Terry is still demanding $30+ million a year when he will be entering his age 33 season, then let him find another team that'll pay him that. Terry is a very good receiver and a good player for this franchise, but that doesn't mean Adam Peters should just give in to Terry's demands. There isn't a premium that should be paid for being a good employee all these years. It's great that he's active in the community, does charity work, etc., but I'd rather him catch 25 more balls for 200+ yards. 99% of a player's contract is for production on the field, not for being a superb person off the field. To be honest, that may be the only thing he is elite at." Wow. Thank you for the email, Connor. It really is something how much what ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter said on the Pat McAfee show this past Monday afternoon has impacted public sentiment on this Terry McLaurin situation. Schefter said that he believes that McLaurin, quote, wants considerably more, end quote, than a $33 million average annual value, a $33 million AAV. As I have said, I believe that Schefter got that intel from the Commanders. That was their way of striking back at what McLaurin said on July 15th in that 32-plus minute session with reporters in sounding off on his frustration with the team in these contract extension talks, including calling what the team was offering him, quote, disrespectful, end quote. That leak to Adam Schefter was a savage move by Commanders general manager Adam Peters, but the move has worked. Email from Wendell Hicks. Writes Wendell, "Hey Al, I hope all is well. I had a couple of thoughts, would be interested to know your opinion. On the Terry McLaurin contract dispute, we don't know exactly what the dispute is, but if age is an issue and the team is concerned about declining performance, why not have a 3 or 4 year deal with the AAV approaching $30 million with $65 million to $70 million guaranteed and start the new deal in 2025? He wouldn't balk at a pay increase, and everyone is a little uncomfortable. But a deal could get done. Maybe Adam Peters has proposed something like this, and Terry has declined it, but it's more than reasonable. That said, I think Terry isn't getting good advice and has made this something it should not have been. all the best. Looking forward to listening to you for another season of seasons. Thank you very much for that, Wendell. That's not a bad idea. The resolution for the Terry McLaurin situation could be a new contract as opposed to a contract extension, i.e. the concession for the team getting favorable terms on the seasons beyond this coming season is the team giving him new terms for this coming season. But Wendell mentioned that he doesn't think that McLaurin is getting good advice. It is worth noting that McLaurin's agent, Buddy Baker, does not have some star-studded list of clients. Buddy Baker works for Exclusive Sports Group. The list of NFL players represented by Baker does not overwhelm you, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that Baker's a bad agent, but it is fair to wonder whether he might be in a little over his head in this situation. This, to me, happened with the mess with then Redskins left tackle Trent Williams in 2019 and 2020. If you remember all that went into that mess, Williams got terrible advice from his agent, Vincent Taylor, and Williams ended up firing Taylor. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, check out BGO Blind Pig, the official podcast of BGObsession.com. New episode just came out. It's great. BGO Blind Pig is terrific. It is a roundtable discussion of the Commanders. It's like you and a bunch of your buddies are hanging out and talking about the team. The conversation is smart and fun and respectful. You can find the BGO Blind Pig podcast on YouTube and on any major podcast provider. Make BGObsession.com the home for your burgundy and gold obsession, and make the BGO Blind Pig podcast part of your Commanders podcast rotation. Well, Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin on Thursday morning again signed autographs for and posed for pictures with fans at 2025 Commanders training camp. He is holding in as he is in the midst of contract extension negotiations with the team, but he does continue to interact with fans. McLaurin was on the reserve/did not report list from July 23rd to this past Sunday, July 27th. He, since this past Sunday, has been on the active/physically unable to perform list. This due to an ankle injury that just about everyone believes is a cover for him to not practice. But McLaurin was getting fined $50,000 for each day of training camp that he no-showed. That fine is mandated by the collective bargaining agreement between the NFL and NFL Players Association. So he now is not being fined, but he still is not practicing. Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels did a post-practice press conference on Thursday morning. We, during that presser, had this back and forth between Adam Kilgore of the Washington Post and Daniels.
Since Terry's been back in the building, kind of what's been your level of communication with him? Like, what are you two able to accomplish now that he is back, at least like in the building?
Yeah, I mean, it's great having Terry back in the building, and we just communicate like a normal day. Talk about ball, we talk about life. So I mean, nothing's changed at all.
I mean, the last time you were in here, you talked about the great connection you guys formed last year. It's going to come back. That being said, it's 1 year you guys have had together. How important is it to you that he's able to get back on the field sooner than later to sort of continue to build on what you had last year?
I mean, I think it's super important for everybody. Just get as many rests as possible before the big show, the real thing is to happen. But I know the time will come, and till then, I mean, if that's us getting in the film room and watching film and just talking, that's other ways we could do it. But I mean, like I said, man, nothing's changed since Terry's been back in the building. When he's out of the building, we always talk. We talk ball, we talk life, and so nothing's changed at all.
All right, where are we headed with this Terry McLaurin situation? I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Tony Pauline, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst for Sportskeeda. You could read his work at Sportskeeda.com. Tony previously has worked for the New York Giants and Philadelphia Eagles official websites and for SI.com. And Tony on July 29th had a Sportskeeda.com report with intel on the Terry McLaurin situation. Tony wrote, quote, "I asked league insiders to shed some light on what they think will happen with the Commanders' top receiver moving forward. People I've spoken with tell me that they expect a deal will get done sooner rather than later, though it's not going to be a huge contract. I'm told to expect a 2 to 3 year extension for McLaurin with a bump in pay this season to give him a bit more security. Sources tell me they believe the Commanders will offer a deal with an annual payout slightly higher than the one received by Denver Broncos receiver Courtland Sutton. The holdup would be McLaurin demanding more than $30 million annually. People tell me they don't feel the franchise would be willing to go that high for McLaurin, end quote. You can follow Tony on X at Tony Pauline. Hey, Tony, how are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for having me back.
When it comes to what NFL insiders told you about the Terry McLaurin situation, did anything surprise you?
No, not really. I thought the length of the contract may have been a little bit longer than the 2 to 3 year extension that they had mentioned. But otherwise, the numbers were in line. And as they said, as I said in my article, the Courtland Sutton signing from earlier this week kind of gives a baseline where to move from for both the Commanders, if not McLaurin himself.
So this Courtland Sutton comp, the Denver Broncos on Monday announced the signing of receiver Courtland Sutton to a 4-year contract extension, what reportedly is a 4-year, $92 million contract extension. That works out to an average annual value and AAV of $23 million. The Sutton extension is underwhelming from an AAV standpoint, and he's going into his age 30 season, just like Terry McLaurin is entering his age 30 season. So from those standpoints, the Sutton extension does not help the cause of McLaurin. But I would say that McLaurin is better than Sutton. He has been more productive than Sutton, has been more durable than Sutton. So the worthiness of the comp takes a hit in that regard. What do you say to that?
Well, I would agree with that to a certain extent. So, and I think McLaurin's going to get more money and more guarantees than Sutton. I mean, Terry McLaurin's been a terrific asset for the Commanders' offense, literally from the time he stepped on the field as a rookie. And he's a big piece of this offense for a team that hopes to take the next step. I would agree that, McLaurin should get more money, should get more guarantees than Sutton. But, given his age and everything else, as I wrote in the article, the Commanders will pay him. I don't think, they don't want to break the bank for him. They don't want to pay him $30 million plus per year, which is what he may be asking for.
You know the New York Jets well. They on July 17th announced the signing of receiver Garrett Wilson to a multi-year contract extension, a reported 4-year, $130 million contract extension. Now, Wilson is a lot younger than McLaurin. Wilson is entering just his age 25 season. How relevant is the Wilson extension to McLaurin?
I'm sure it's something that they'll point to as far as guarantees are concerned. But again, the age factor, I said McLaurin, has been impactful and has been a big-time producer for the Commanders since they drafted him. But he was also 24 years old, and he's going to be 30 years old, this season. So while you can look at the money as far as Garrett Wilson's concerned, you got to take the age into effect, and that's going to be a factor.
ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show this past Monday afternoon said something that really has changed the conversation about this Terry McLaurin situation. Schefter said that he believes that McLaurin, quote, wants considerably more, end quote, than a $33 million AAV. What, if anything, were you told by your sources about what McLaurin wants?
I did not get into that. They didn't speak to that. They told me, as I wrote in the article, what they think is going to happen and what the upper line is going to be for the Commanders, that once you get to that $30 million a year mark, the Commanders, may get a little bit jittery. They may back off. But as I said, he's going to want, in the article, he's going to want guarantees because he's going to want security for the future. He is, they're going to be 30 years old. And, this could be the final contract if he gets 2 to 3 years extension on top of the 2025 season. So while they didn't tell me directly what McLaurin's asking for, they believe that he's going to want high guarantees and he's going to want security, was the word that was used when I spoke with him, moving forward, given his age.
We're getting intel on the Terry McLaurin contract extension situation with Tony Pauline, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst for Sportskeeda. Do you think that the Commanders should be willing to pay McLaurin $30 million per season?
I would, because they got a good thing going. I mean, if you read any of my articles more than a year ago, before 2024 camp open, I mentioned how there was a buzz in the building and people were no longer looking over their shoulder in fear as they were when Daniel Snyder was there. They were looking forward with enthusiasm and expectations. And I think they far exceeded anything anybody could imagine they were going to do last year. And then you look at the offseason. They bring in Laremy Tunsil. They bring in Deebo Samuel. They signed Michael Gallup. They bring in Von Miller. So they are really, setting the stage to win soon, to win this year. And McLaurin is obviously a big piece of that for the offense for a younger quarterback. Granted, Jayden Daniels didn't play like a young quarterback last year, but he still is a young quarterback. So I think that, and I said in the article, I said that the Commanders have to be careful here because they've got a good thing going on. This isn't the New York Jets. You mentioned Garrett Wilson. This isn't the New York Jets that signed Garrett Wilson, and they're lucky if they win 5 or 6 games next year. This is a team that was in the NFC title championship game last year. They hope to take the next step. They hope to beat the nemesis Philadelphia Eagles, and they're going to need McLaurin to do that.
My take is that the Commanders very much have the leverage on Terry McLaurin. A, he's under contract for this coming season, what'll be his age 30 season. B, they have the franchise tag. The truth is that they don't have to sign him to a contract extension. McLaurin needs the extension a lot more than the team does. Is that an accurate take on this?
It absolutely is. I mean, that's why he's in camp. That's why Trey Hendrickson showed up in Cincinnati. That's why Micah Parsons is hanging out at Cowboys camp. Because these guys are under contract. So I think your statement is right on. But you don't want unhappy guys in a locker room, especially this locker room, where the culture changed on a dime, literally in a few months' time last year.
Off the top of your head, where does Terry McLaurin rank among NFL receivers? Top 10, top 15, top 20? What do you think?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I would say top 10. He's not as dynamic as some of the other receivers, but he just means so much to the Commanders' offense. And he has, again, as I said, since he was a rookie, the Commanders' offense are much better with Terry McLaurin on the field than they are off of the field. And you may have bigger downfield threats, guys who catch more touchdowns, although he caught a career high, 13 touchdowns last year, guys who are a better red zone threat, but he means a lot to this offense.
How valid is the concern that a receiver falls off once he hits 30?
It seems that way. Only a few. It's not like quarterbacks and some other positions where these guys can go into their mid-30s. But I think because of the fall off of the physical skills and the fact that college is producing so many receivers these days, and these guys who are a little bit older, not as quick, not as fast, may take a little bit longer to heal from injuries or more easily replaceable. I do think that once you get past the age of 30, it's been shown the shelf life is not as long or not as good at the receiver position compared to other spots on the football field.
Terry McLaurin is one of the best picks by Washington in an NFL draft over the last 30 years. The Redskins took him out of Ohio State in the 3rd round of the 2019 NFL draft. Just out of curiosity, what did you think of McLaurin going into that draft?
Thought he wasn't very fast. I thought he was a decent route runner. I thought he was going to be a real good possession wideout, and he played well that year at the Senior Bowl. Did I think he was going to turn out to be the type of receiver he's turned out to be? No, but then again, he did come from the Ohio State University, and the fact is, while a lot of people, including myself, focus on receivers coming out of LSU, Ohio State has produced a lot of top-notch next-level receivers, so it shouldn't be a surprise.
What prevents Terry McLaurin from being an elite NFL receiver, like a top 3, top 5 guy? Is it a lack of truly special physical traits?
Absolutely. If he had those great traits, he probably would have been a top 45 pick. He may have been a first-round pick. But the fact that, he's not a consistent deep threat, he's not stretching the field, like the way DK Metcalf would. Everyone's talking about he's going to want DK Metcalf money. You look at DK Metcalf, he looks like a power forward on the football field that runs in the 4-3s and plays that. McLaurin isn't that, but what he is he's a polished receiver who's very dependable and consistently productive.
Tony Pauline, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst for Sportskeeda. Tony, thanks. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks for having me.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/Blue Wire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/Blue Wire. Spelled BABBEL.com/Blue Wire. Babbel.com/Blue Wire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Hey, if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can write a review of the podcast saying that you like it. The review can be just a sentence or two, but the reviews help out the podcast a lot, and we thank you for doing them. We on Thursday morning had a padded practice at 2025 Commanders training camp. This was the second padded practice of camp. The first was this past Monday. Thursday morning's practice was a run-heavy practice, a lot of work on the rushing offense. That makes sense given that this was a padded practice. And by the way, running back Jacory Croskey-Merritt, the man known as Bill, he again stood out. More impressive runs. This guy has been the star of this camp so far. We, during quarterback Jayden Daniels' post-practice press conference on Thursday morning, had this back and forth between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Daniels.
Jacory Croskey-Merritt, or Bill.
Yeah.
Do you call him Bill?
I do call him Bill.
Everybody calls him Bill?
That's Bill.
That's
Bill.
What do you think of him, just in what he's done on the field in the first week, and have you gotten to know him much off the field?
Yeah, I mean, just his he's really good with his one cut and getting north and south and his vision. He's coming along, so I'm excited to see what he does coming forward versus, in different joint practices versus in preseason games, stuff like that. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah, going to be really interesting to see Jacory Croskey-Merritt in the 2025 preseason. The Commanders' practice on Thursday morning was another early practice. The team lately has been having 8 a.m. practices as opposed to 9 a.m. practices due to the heat. The Commanders on Wednesday afternoon announced that their training camp practices for Thursday and Saturday had become 8 a.m. practices as opposed to 9 a.m. practices. Each of those practices open to fans in some form. Commanders head coach Dan Quinn did a pre-practice press conference on Thursday morning in the 7 o'clock hour. This was Quinn on practices being moved up to being 8 a.m. practices.
We just move everything up 1 hour. We just want to do right by the guys. And if we can get like really, high standards of practice better at this point, it's the right thing, man. If we can, any way we can do to, take after the players better. So there's a certain amount of hours you're allowed in the day, so you just basically move everything up by 1 hour. So it takes some sacrifice, especially from like the medical side and the training side, for the players to really ramp up and be ready. It's a good hour to just whatever manual work they need, the getting themselves primed, the on-field preparation. So like the athletic preparation, it takes some time to throw a great practice. So everybody else being in early to help them do that. They get out earlier at night, so it's worth it. We've had a good hot block, and I love the work that the guys are putting in, man. They are absolutely, pushing one another and giving it up for one another. And as a coach, that's what I told them, and I couldn't be more pleased about that. When you give up that kind of effort for one another, that's the big deal. The scheme, that will come. But if you don't have a play style of hard-ass effort and finishing, all the plays in the world ain't going to matter.
Very true. We did have a roster move that was announced by the Commanders early Thursday morning. They announced having activated offensive lineman Timothy McKay from the active/non-football injury list as he passed his physical. The team on July 19th announced having placed McKay on the active/non-football injury list. Timothy McKay, an undrafted rookie out of NC State. A guy who was a rookie last season was Jayden Daniels. Had a pretty good rookie season, in case you haven't heard. We on Thursday morning had this exchange with Dan Quinn.
Regarding Jayden, sometimes we'll see after like a bad rep or during a team portion doesn't go the offense's way, he'll like go up to someone and I would assume correct it, talk about it right away. Even with someone with a lot more NFL time like a Deebo or something, he'll go up. Is that something he's always done? Is he doing it more this year? And I'm assuming that's got to be pretty encouraging as a coach to see.
It's more at this time of year. I certainly felt that, as the season progressed. Sometimes you go to tell somebody, man, do that exactly the same space. I didn't throw it to the right spot. So I don't want you to think every time he's going to somebody it's correcting. Sometimes it's reinforcing. Man, you hit every part of that. That's on me to make sure it's in the right location. Other times you're exactly right. Hey, I want that, bend it more flat down the line, or I'm going to throw it away from another player's leverage there. So when we see the coverage to go, there was a great interaction between him and Sinnott the other day. There was a certain blitz that Ben had to look quickly to go to it. Jayden put it right on him. So I saw them talking afterwards that connection happened so quickly. Maybe last year that wouldn't have been, but like this specific play, they went, they talked about it, that's it. And so that made me happy too. On that particular play, he was just going to acknowledge to Ben, man, like that was the route, that was the right spot. And so I think there's all three things. One, acknowledgement. Two, like on a good play, or one, you're in the right space, or three, here's why I saw what could be different. So there's all sorts of ones, but the communication is the main thing. Like if you see it, say it,
Good anecdote there from Dan Quinn on Jayden Daniels and tight end Ben Sinnott. And to add to that, we on Thursday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Jayden Daniels.
Just even in terms of a leadership role, how have you seen yourself evolve or change? Do more of that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's a standard that we set on the offensive side and I'm the one that's got to uphold the standard. And that's if guys are false starting, the next guy up, stuff like that. And even for me, it's like holding myself accountable. If I mess up, I'll look to Zach. I'll look to guys like that to hold me accountable too. But I mean, that's just holding leadership-wise, like not letting nobody fall underneath the standard.
All right, so Jayden Daniels growing as a leader. You know, a lot of second-year players for the team are drawing praise. Dan Quinn on Thursday morning got asked about the second-year players who are most standing out as we had this exchange between Donna Hopkins of Pro Football Plus and Quinn.
Your second-year players you talk a lot about. Who have you seen step up the most right now?
I don't know if I'd say the most, but Coleman is one that I've been really impressed about what I've seen so far. But a number of them have really, taken good steps. In some instances, their bodies have changed. Like Baptiste, he's longer, stronger. That was part of his development. I liked what I saw, from McGee as a blitzer. When you can really go onto that, it changes the math of can a running back really block him? And that's Frankie started as a blitzer, and now he can be a rusher. And so what's the difference, Dan? A rusher, you shouldn't put a back on. The offensive lineman has to go to this player. So seeing guys develop, making their moves, it's all part of it. And a number of them are making really good strides.
So Dan Quinn right there highlighting left guard Brandon Coleman, edge defender Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and linebacker Jordan McGee. Quinn so far at camp has had a lot of nice things to say about Coleman. He seems to be doing well. Another second-year player getting talked about a lot is cornerback Mikey Sainristil. We on Thursday morning had this exchange between Nicky Jhabvala and Dan Quinn.
What have you seen from Mikey in camp so far, and how is his comfort level in year two shown on the field?
Sainristil, I felt... I always see, or I put it this way, I know about the ball skills. And so to see there was an interception a few days ago where he was running, towards the middle of the field to go, and the ability to go track it and get it. I think the confidence to know when to take my shot, when not to. And then the last piece that I've seen for him, which I know it was there, and it's not easy to do your earliest in your early part of your career, the leader is developing and emerging. And that to me that's the next step for him. The other players believe in him, Nicky, and know that he puts in the work. So to see him take on some leading in his own way, that's a big deal. To see a leader, how does Bobby do it? That's different than the next person that does it, and he's finding his own way to do that. And I think that's really impactful.
Mikey Sainristil, of course, a reason for optimism about the Commanders' cornerback group for this coming season. What about cornerback Marshon Lattimore? Will he this coming season stay healthy? Will he this coming season play well? Lattimore off being acquired by the team via trade with the New Orleans Saints last November 5th, what was 2024 NFL Trade Deadline Day, was with the team for a total of 11 games, 8 regular season games, and 3 postseason games, but he, due to a troublesome hamstring, played in just 5 of those games, 2 regular season games and all 3 postseason games, and the play was not good enough. And Lattimore came to the Commanders having played in just 24 of a possible 43 regular season games since the start of the 2022 season. His injury history is substantial. We on Thursday morning had this exchange between Nicky Jhabvala and Dan Quinn.
Coming off the injury last year, does he look more confident? Does he have his first step back? I mean, are you at the point in camp where you can tell if he's close to where he was a couple years ago?
What I can say, coming in, his mindset's great, honestly. Coming in, just fresh eyes, a fresh start, everybody kind of doing it together. So I've noticed that, sensed that. His communication is even, more with the other teammates as they're building it together. We're going to be smart as we're going. We're almost here to August, so they're for him, there's more ramp up that will go through it. We're just not going to miss one step, Nicky. So as we're going, a little bit more, then some more, then some more. So we're still into that phase, but we really are going to aim to nail it. And so to say, I've seen good plays from him, yes. Most importantly, I want to see the good, healthy plays, because I know that's when we'll be at our best.
You so could hear in Dan Quinn's answer that he believes that the health of Marshon Lattimore is the thing with this guy. The guy can play. We know that. He just can't stay healthy. The Commanders last season did work wonders with tight end Zach Ertz in terms of getting an oft-injured veteran player to stay healthy. Can/will the team do the same with Lattimore this coming season? And then what about the Commanders' two major trade acquisitions from this past March? Left tackle Laremy Tunsil and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. Regarding Tunsil, we on Thursday morning had this back and forth between Adam Kilgore of the Washington Post and Dan Quinn.
What have you learned so far about Laremy Tunsil that you may not have known about him before he got in the building and before he started practicing?
You see the consistency as a competitor going against him. You would see that. I found this is a smart player who's a quick learner, knowing it's a new system, and it doesn't feel like a new system when I'm watching him. And for everybody last year putting it together, setbacks, and so for him, you can see, the studying element of going into it and being prepared. I like seeing that. I knew what the competitor and their performance would look like, but seeing that level of consistency, discipline, man, it shows up like with the good players, doesn't it? Like the things that they're doing right over and over, like when you watch it, like, now I know why. There's the talent, but he also has the skill, the discipline, all those things that go with it, and I'm seeing that on a regular.
How good is he going to be for a guy like Conerly?
Yeah, it's big, and they spend a good bit of time together, and so those have to happen organically, and it's nice to see that they're already happening. Laramie's walked that walk earlier, and I would say to a certain degree last season, Marcus was really instrumental for us, Mariota with Jayden. He's one of the very best teammates I've ever been around. That type of connection of player to player, it's really, really strong. And so to see that starting to begin with Laremy and Josh and having that much trust in somebody, that Josh does, of watching him and learning, you can imagine like what an invaluable experience that is for Josh. There's coaching side, but then there's another side. Not one stance is the same. Not one set is exactly the same. So I think it's a really cool thing. It does have to happen, on its own with, spaces to do it. And we're really fortunate that way. But it makes me think of Marcus and Jayden and the importance of that. Those talks, just the two of them going through a technique or a situation, and it's a big deal.
I like that comp that Dan Quinn made, comping the QB1, QB2 relationship, the young player-veteran relationship of Jayden Daniels and Marcus Mariota with the relationship between Laremy Tunsil and offensive lineman Josh Conerly Jr., who the team took out of the University of Oregon with the number 29 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. And then with Deebo Samuel, so the Jayden Daniels-Deebo Samuel connection has been very consistent so far during training camp. They already seem to have a good chemistry. We on Thursday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Standig and Daniels.
With you and Deebo, it looks like you guys have been kind of doing this for a while together. And you talked about the chemistry the other day. How is that going? What, over even just this first week or so of camp, have you noticed that you guys have already kind of elevated a little bit?
It's only been a week of camp. It's only been a week of camp?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
I know.
It felt like 3 weeks. But I'll just say for Deebo, the guy's played a lot of football. And he's very understanding of different coverages and routes. And, the guy is a pro, and he works hard. So for me, it's like I just go out there and try to communicate this is what I want versus this look versus this coverage. And he go out there and he puts in the work and he understands it.
So we all get, not to get too crazy over how players are looking in training camp. I think that we've all learned that lesson over time. But it is exciting to see and hear that Deebo Samuel is looking good and that the Jayden Daniels-Deebo connection has been good. All right, congratulations to Chris Nace, lead attorney for the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. Chris has been named a 2025 Law Dragon 500 leading plaintiff consumer lawyer. His dedication to justice and client advocacy continues to make a real impact. Also, congrats to Samantha Peters of the Nace Law Group. She was recently elected to the Board of Governors of the Trial Lawyers Association of Metropolitan Washington, D.C. Founded in 1979, the Dace Law Group is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is outstanding. Chris Nace and the rest of the team do excellent work. They'll fight for you and your family. They can help you and your family make difficult decisions. So the Nace Law Group has recovered millions of dollars for the sick and injured. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. There are so many questions with the Nationals as they are in the midst of a 6th consecutive losing regular season in a rebuild that is not working. Among those many questions, do the Nats need to start the rebuild over, or is the current rebuild salvageable? That question to me was at the heart of whether the Nats in the lead-up to the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern should trade their ace, starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore, who is under team control through just the 2027 season. Need to start the rebuild over? Then trade Gore. Rebuild salvageable? Then don't trade Gore. Well, Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo on Thursday did not trade Gore. Now, what I would love to know is, did DeBartolo want to trade Gore and just was not allowed to by ownership, the Lerner family, or did DeBartolo just not want to trade Gore, either because DeBartolo didn't like the offers that he got or because philosophically he doesn't think that trading Gore is the right thing to do. DeBartolo also did not trade two Nats veterans on expiring contracts in first baseman Josh Bell and infielder Paul DeJong. That was disappointing, but DeBartolo did trade a bunch of other players. The Nats in the lead-up to the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline made 5 trades involving 6 players, 5 of whom are on expiring contracts, one of whom is not. Let's go through each trade. Trade number 1, the Nats late night this past Saturday night announced having traded utility man Ahmed Rosario to the New York Yankees for 2 prospects and reliever Clayton Beeter and outfielder Braum Martinez. Beeter was the Yankees' number 20 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Martinez was not among the Yankees' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 2, the Nats on Wednesday afternoon announced having traded relievers Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin to the Los Angeles Angels for 2 prospects and starting pitcher Jake Eder and first baseman Sam Brown. Eder was not among the Angels' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline, was the Angels' number 24 overall prospect per Baseball America. Brown was not among the Angels' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline or Baseball America. Trade number 3, the Nats at exactly midnight on Thursday morning announced having traded starting pitcher Michael Soroka to the Chicago Cubs for 2 prospects and shortstop Ronnie Cruz and outfielder Christian Franklin. A nice return for the Nats in this trade. Cruz was the Cubs' number 13 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Franklin was the Cubs' number 14 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 4, the Nats on Thursday afternoon announced having traded closer Kyle Finnegan to the Detroit Tigers for 2 starting pitching prospects in Josh Randall and R.J. Sales. Randall was the Tigers' number 15 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Sales was not among the Tigers' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline. And trade number 5, the Nats on Thursday evening announced having traded outfielder Alex Cole to the Los Angeles Dodgers for 2 starting pitching prospects in Eric Swan and Sean Paul Lignan. Swan was the Dodgers' number 16 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Lignan was the Dodgers' number 20 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. So the Nats in a rebuild that at the very least desperately needs a jolt. Have added a number of prospects. Now, who knows how good they are, okay? Who knows how many will pan out? Prospects are lottery tickets in so many ways, but if you go by the MLB Pipeline rankings, the Nats got some decent prospects. I mean, the team with who it was selling was never going to get elite prospects unless the team traded MacKenzie Gore. Now, a few thoughts on who the Nats traded on Thursday. Michael Soroka. He was on an expiring contract. The Nats this past December 19th announced having agreed with Soroka as a free agent on a one-year contract. The contract was a one-year deal worth a reported $9 million. Soroka for the Nats in the 2025 regular season had a bad ERA, but also had good peripherals. 16 starts, 81 and a third innings, ERA of 4.87, but a whip of 1.13 and a strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.63. He was on the 15-day injured list from April 4th, retroactive to April 1st to May 7th due to a right arm bicep strain. Kyle Finnegan is on an expiring contract, and what is his age 33 season? He's older than people think. Finnegan for the Nats at the major league level over 6 regular seasons, 2020 through 2025, was durable but not dominant. That would be my catchphrase for Kyle Finnegan. Durable, but not dominant. He wasn't bad, but he just was not great. ERA of 3.66, whip of 1.32, strikeouts per 9 innings of 8.7. Those are not particularly impressive numbers for a closer. He went 108 for 136 on saves. But Finnegan with the Nats never spent a single day on an injured list. That's impressive. And Alex Cole, so he's under team control through the 2029 season, but this season is his age 30 season. He's another guy who's older than many people think. The Nats acquired Cole via claiming him off waivers from the Cleveland Guardians on August 7th, 2022. The Nats ended up turning him into 2 of the Dodgers' top 20 prospects. Not bad. Cole for the Nats in 904 Major League plate appearances over the 2022 through 2025 regular seasons, had an OPS plus of 103. That's good. That's above average. OPS plus is OPS that's adjusted for a player's league at home ballpark. 100 is average. Above 100 is good. Below 100 is bad. Now, the Nats reportedly are promoting a bunch of players from AAA Rochester to take over the roster spots that have been vacated by these many trades. Outfielder Robert Hassel III, starting pitcher Shinosuke Ogasawara, relievers Orlando Revolta and Ryan Ludis all reportedly are being promoted to the majors. Now that the trade deadline has passed, and given that the Nats this season are going nowhere, I do not want to see much of the likes of Josh Bell and Paul DeJong the rest of this season. No offense to those guys, but they are veterans who do not fit into the big picture with this team. Give as many young players as much playing time as possible the rest of the season. And I will say this about Mike DeBartolo. He did a nice job with the 2025 MLB draft. He did a nice job with this 2025 MLB trade deadline. He has a modern, data-driven vision for what Nats baseball operations should be. He recognizes where the team has gone wrong. He understands how to deal with the Lerner family, given that he has been with the Nats since 2012. I am open to the interim tag being removed from DeBartolo's GM title. Now, I'm not saying that should be done today, okay? I do want the Lerner family to interview other people, but I am open to DeBartolo being the successor to Mike Rizzo as head of Nats baseball operations. So far, so good for Mike DeBartolo as Nats interim GM.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words, correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bluewire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bluewire, spelled BABBEL.com/bluewire. Babbel.com/bluewire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed Sponsored Jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
This has so been a disappointing season for the Orioles. A lot of it has been due to the team for a second consecutive season getting walloped by injury, but there is more to the struggles than that. Orioles Executive Vice President and General Manager Mike Elias has made some bad trades and free agent signings in recent years. The team has not developed starting pitching well enough, and there are some players who simply have not been as good as they're supposed to be. All of that said, I do not think that the O's need to undergo another rebuild. I do think that they can be good again as soon as next season. But this season, for all intents and purposes, is over from a postseason contention standpoint. And so I wanted Mike Elias to sell, and sell hard, regarding the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And sell hard. He did. The O's, in the lead-up to MLB's 2025 Trade Deadline, made a whopping 8 major league trades. Let's go through them. Trade number 1, the O's on July 10th announced having traded reliever Brian Baker to the Tampa Bay Rays for the number 37 overall pick in the 2025 MLB Draft. It was a pick in the competitive balance round A of the draft, and the O's with that number 37 overall pick took outfielder Slater DeBrun out of a high school in Oregon. Trade number 2, the O's this past Friday afternoon, July 25th, announced having traded reliever Gregory Soto to the New York Mets for 2 pitching prospects in Wellington Aracena and Cameron Foster. Aracena was the Mets' number 19 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Foster was not ranked among the Mets' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 3, the O's on Tuesday evening announced having traded reliever Sir Anthony Dominguez and cash considerations to the Toronto Blue Jays for starting pitching prospect Jaron Watts-Brown. He was the Blue Jays' number 10 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 4, the O's on Thursday morning announced having traded infielder Ramon Urias and cash considerations to the Houston Astros for starting pitching prospect Twine Palmer. Palmer was not among the Astros' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 5, the O's on Thursday morning announced having traded reliever Andrew Kittredge to the Chicago Cubs for shortstop prospect Wilfrey De La Cruz. De La Cruz was the Cubs' number 17 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 6, the O's on Thursday afternoon announced having traded outfielder Cedric Mullins to the New York Mets for 3 relief pitching prospects in Anthony Nunez, Ramon Gomez, and Chandler Marsh. Nunez was the Mets' number 14 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Gomez was the Mets' number 30 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline, and Marsh was not among the Mets' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline. Trade number 7, the O's on Thursday evening announced having traded first baseman / outfielder Ryan O'Hearn, outfielder Ramon Laureano, and cash considerations to the San Diego Padres for 6 prospects, including starting pitching prospect Boston Bateman, shortstop / second baseman prospect Cobb Hightower, and relief pitching prospect Tyson Neighbors. I love this trade. Bateman was the Padres' number 4 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. Hightower was the Padres' number 6 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline, and Neighbors was the Padres' number 12 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. The O's got 3 of the Padres' top 12 prospects and 3 other prospects. And then trade number 8. The O's on Thursday evening announced having traded starting pitcher Charlie Morton and cash considerations to the Detroit Tigers for relief pitching prospect Micah Ashman. Ashman was not among the Tigers' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline. The return for Ramon Urias actually did seem a little underwhelming. Maybe I'm overvaluing him, but Urias is under team control through the 2026 season, and he has been a good player. He for the O's over 506 games over the 2020 through 2025 regular seasons accumulated 10.5 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. That works out to a 162-game average of 3.3 WAR per Baseball Reference. That's quite good. Urias won the American League Gold Glove Award for third baseman for the 2022 regular season. Ramon Urias, a win for Mike Elias from the perspective of he got Urias via claiming him off waivers from the St. Louis Cardinals in February 2020. But zero problem with Elias trading Urias. This season is his age 31 season. I do want to salute Cedric Mullins, Ryan O'Hearn, and Ramon Laureano. I wanted Elias to trade all 3 of those guys, but all 3 of those guys were good Orioles. Cedric Mullins, he is on an expiring contract, but a big-time organizational success story. He was taken by the O's out of Campbell University in the 13th round of the 2015 MLB draft. He ended up becoming a cornerstone player for the O's. Mullins for the O's over the 2021 through 2024 regular seasons accumulated 15.6 wins above replacement for Baseball Reference. So Ryan O'Hearn, he is on an expiring contract, but he's another big-time organizational success story. The O's on January 3rd, 2023 acquired O'Hearn from the Kansas City Royals for cash. He for the O's in 1,223 plate appearances over 3 regular seasons had an OPS of 796. He was the Orioles' lone all-star for this season. And the O's this past February 4th announced having agreed with Ramon Laureano as a free agent on a 1-year contract for the 2025 season with a club option for 2026. And he was quite good for the O's this season. Laureano for the O's in the 2025 regular season, 290 plate appearances, OPS of 884. But this season is Mullins' age 30 season, is O'Hearn's age 31 season, and is Laureano's age 30 season. All 3 guys should have been traded. All 3 guys were traded. Charlie Morton, he's on an expiring contract this season, his age 41 season. He, of course, should have been traded. The O's this past January 3rd announced having agreed with Morton as a free agent on a 1-year contract. The contract reportedly a 1-year, $15 million contract. It initially was a disaster. Morton for the O's in the 2025 regular season initially was so bad that he got demoted to the bullpen. But he turned his season around. He over 11 starts after returning to the Orioles rotation, had an ERA of 3.88. And Andrew Kittredge of the O's this past January 13th announced having agreed with Kittredge as a free agent on a 1-year contract for the 2025 season with a club option for the 2026 season. He was on the 15-day injured list from March 27th retroactive to March 24th to May 21st due to left knee debridement surgery that he underwent on March 7th. So it took a while for his season to get going. He for the O's in this 2025 regular season had the following stats: 31 games, 31 and a third innings, ERA of 3.45, whip of 1.09, strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.19. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. The O's with these trades have replenished their farm system and thus have added a bunch of trade chips for potential offseason moves to bolster this team back to being a contender. So I'm a fan of what Mike Elias did here. Now, in perfect symbolism for this Orioles season, the O's did not trade starting pitcher Zach Eflin, despite him being on an expiring contract. And perhaps the reason that they did not trade him is that he is hurt again. The O's on Thursday morning announced having placed Eflin on the 15-day injured list retroactive to July 29th. This due to lower back discomfort. They also announced having recalled starting pitcher Brandon Young from Double-A Chesapeake, but Eflin was on the 15-day IL June 30th, retroactive to June 29th to July 23rd due to lower back discomfort, and he was on the 15-day IL April 9th, retroactive to April 8th to May 11th due to a right lat strain. This is his third stint on the 15-day IL this season, and he's having a bad season. Eflin for this regular season, 14 starts, ERA of 5.93, whip of 1.42. Mike Elias has a lot of work to do this offseason, but I do like his aggressive selling regarding this trade deadline, and hopefully this is the last trade deadline for which the O's are sellers for a while. Again, this season has been a major disappointment, but I do think that this can and should be a one-off bad season as opposed to the first of multiple consecutive bad seasons. This team still has too many good players to be bad. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Monday show, episode 1125. We'll have a lot for you on the Commanders. Also on Monday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats this weekend have a 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park. The O's this weekend have a 3-game series at the Chicago Cubs. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
Jacory Croskey-Merritt, or Bill. Do you call him Bill?
I do call him Bill.
Everybody calls him Bill?
That's Bill. That's Bill.